Good afternoon, my name is Beko Pin and you are watching Rappler. On October 22, that's a Sunday, the Philippines said that a China Coast Guard vessel collided with the Oneida May 2, that's an AFP contracted supply ship. Hours later, the Philippines said the BRP Cabra, this time a Philippine Coast Guard ship, was bumped, that was their term, by a Chinese maritime militia vessel. Now, all of this happened during a routine resupply mission to the BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea. Now, confrontations between the Philippines and China, especially in the waters surrounding Ayungin, are nothing new. Every few weeks or so, at least once a month, we hear news of another case of harassment, blocking attempts. The government does not want to say that it's a blockade just yet. And more alarming incidents. In February, the Chinese used a military-grade laser on our PCG personnel. In August, they used water cannons against the PCG and the Oneida May. Both times, as in the case of the October 22 collisions, China's actions, according to the Philippine government, have put our PCG personnel, the embedded Philippine media, and military resupply personnel at risk. As tensions rise in different parts of the world and in the South China Sea, it makes you wonder what happens now. Joining me in this afternoon's discussion are experts in their field to help us hopefully better understand and make sense of what's happening in the West Philippine Sea and what it means for all of us back here on land. I'm joined today by Rappler Editor-at-Large Marites Vitog, former Defense Secretary Orly Mercado, former Presidential Advisor Ronald Llamas, and retired Rear Admiral Romel Ong. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am punching above my weight class this afternoon, but I thank all of you for your time and our audience certainly to help us better understand ano bang nangyayari sa West Philippine Sea, why should we care about it, and what can the Philippine government do about this. Siguro let's start with the BRP Sierra Madre. We've heard so many things about it, no? But the gentleman here can tell us the origins of the BRP Sierra Madre. Sir, can you walk us back to history? 1999, ano yung situation nun at paano natin naisip to ground?
How long do we have? And the short story is, I think the challenge that we faced during that time, and we had articulated it, was that what do we do to assert our presence? Because this issue is really about presence. You know, there are three ways a country acquires new territory. If it is geographically, there is geographic propinquity, or it's very near, they occupy it. Sale. Russia sold Alaska to the United States. And effective occupation. Noong una, the Chinese were not as aggressive as they are now. But that is explained by the fact that the instructions there of Deng Xiaoping was hide your strengths. They became a very strong economic power, and as a consequence, they were able to build their military capabilities. And when they had the capability, the muscular structure to assert their rights, or what they feel their rights are, that's when they started changing. Ang panahon namin, ano ba gagawin natin dito? How can we assert? Hindi nga tayo makapag-patrol. Hindi na, kulang na yung domain awareness na ukol nyo. Hindi rin natin alam yung sitwasyon. Biglang nagkaroon ng struktura doon sa Mischief Reef.
Yes.
Noong una, at the beginning, they were explaining these are structures for fishermen. Simple structures. When there is inclement weather, they will go and seek refuge there. But the structure grew, and it became obvious that it had military significance. You don't have to be a military expert like Admiral Long to be able to deduce that. But the point there was we have to have presence. So sabi ko, mag-isip nga kayo ng paraan ka. There might be a way. It was the Navy that came up with the idea. And when they told me, LSTs, sabi ko, ano yan? Landing ship tanks? Di ba, ano yan? Panahon pa sa Normandy yan? Sabi ko, hindi masabi talaga. Marami mga assets natin, they still work. And so the thing there was, isasadsad yan. And it will be maintained because that's going to be our outpost. Because may outpost na rin sa Yungin, ay sa Mischief Reef, tatapatan. So tatapatan natin yung mga areas. Sabi ko, kayo na bahala mag-decide. Kayong eksperto dyan with your consideration of military, potential military confrontation. So, gawin nyo. So, nagplano na sila. Ang unang sinadsad, ang excuse ko pa noon aksidente. Pero kami mga politiko, we can speak with our mouth, singular mouth on both sides. Kayang-kaya namin gawin yun. Kaya sabi ko sa kanila, pabayaan nyo na mag-explain. Ako ang nakasalang dyan. Sabi yung after the first, sinunod na yung Benguet doon sa Scarborough. The plan there was, ngayon naisip ko, dapat yung ginawa namin siguro mga 4 kaagad suddenly, hindsight. Pero, well, that's how it is. But it became an automatic post. If you maintain that, meron naman generator yan, merong ilaw, But, mahirap din na assignment yan. 6 months kang wala kang nakikita, para kang nakakulong. There are many things. Sinadjust pa nga namin doon na magkaroon ng psychosocial intervention yun pagdating sa So that's how it started.
Sir, curious also, bakit si Sierra Madre andun pa rin? Bakit yung BRP Benguet? Why did we eventually decide to remove it?
Alam mo, they were ready already for us in the second day. Ngayon, ang nangyari niyan, nag-object na talaga ang And during that time, we were also not assertive. I said the most important thing is presence. Dapat hindi tayo bumibigay dyan. And tayo ng mga panahong yun, we had a tendency to concentrate on what we don't have kesa doon sa what we have. Noon pa mas, pinag-uusapan yan sinasabi ko, kasi nung bata kami, nung bata pa kami, si Mao Zedong at saka si pinag-aaralan namin si Lenin. Di ba? Fighters by day, farmers by day, fighters at night. Dapat merong militia, no? Ayun, hindi naman nangyayari. Yun ang isa sa mga dapat natin gawin. Ngayon, hindi lang, meron na tayong kakayahan, pero that's not going to be enough. It's got to be a people's war type of lesson that you can learn from Mao.
That's the perfect segue to my next question. So, fast forward to 2023, some 24 almost years later. Nung January, pumunta si President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. sa Beijing. Sabi ng Foreign Minister ng China, this will be a new golden age daw in bilateral ties between Manila and Beijing. Doon, sabi ni President Marcos na he looks forward to the maturing of ties between the Philippines and China. And then, just this Monday, sabi ni Secretary Gibo Teodoro that China was distorting the truth in the October 22 incident, and he noticed a pattern of their statements as spinning a narrative relating to, I think specifically to Ayungin Shoal, no, and the BRP Sierra Madre. Siguro let's ask Admiral Ong first. Sir, uulitin ko sa iyo yung tanong parati ng mga colleagues ko sa media whenever there's a press conference about Ayungin, about the West Philippine Sea in general. We filed the protest. We've always filed protests. We have condemned the incident in so many degrees and so many ways. But what else can we do after the protests have been filed, after the condemnations have been made?
First off, I think we need to understand first yung maritime strategy ng China. And from that take-off point, understand ano yung pwede nating gawin. Okay? So, again, going back to 1990s, which was mentioned by Senator Orly, yung maritime strategy niya was started off by Admiral Liu Huaqing. He was the Chief of Navy ng PLA Navy during the time of Deng Xiaoping. So, yung strategy na yun transcends time and administrations ng China. So, yung pa rin yung bumabangga sa ating ngayon. So, in our neck of the woods, isa neighborhood natin, simply put, China wants to assert or exercise uncontested sea control ng South China Sea. Okay? But that also is ganun din yung strategy niya for East China Sea and North China Sea. But dito lang sa neighborhood natin, sa ating area, it's to provide uncontested sea control ng South China Sea. Now, we're dealing with several components of the strategy. So, yung Navy, yung Coast Guard, yung militia, plus yung occupied same features nila. So, we need to look at them as one ecosystem. Hindi yung Coast Guard lang nila o militia lang nila. Kasi they work in synergy. May ang nakukumpas niya yung Southern Theater Command, which is the joint command nila based in that has the control over all the military, Coast Guard, saka yung militia forces operating in South China Sea. Okay. Now, part of that strategy is to kumbaga i-contest yung legal rights natin over o yung sovereign rights natin over our own EEZ. Okay. Now, yung protest is one way of affirming yung objection natin over yung actions nila. And that has been very important during later on in the arbitral award kasi it's parang kumbaga sa it's a continuing objection to their actions eh. But kulang yon, hindi lang yon eh. Nabanggit ni Senator Orly about presence, no? And yun yung kulang sa atin. Yung analogy ko rito palagi is the game of basketball eh. Okay? In the game of basketball, if you do not put 5 players on the court, default yung game in favor of your adversary. Yeah. Now, we cannot contest, we cannot assert our rights dito sa ating EEZ if yung players natin are naka-bench doon sa bleacher and not in court. Okay? So, for us to be able to, kumbaga, have a minimum presence doon sa we need to put our players in court. Yeah. That means maritime presence. Hindi uubra yung yung dadapo lang tayo sa Ayungin once in a while. Yeah. Dadapo lang tayo sa Scarborough Shoal once in a while. Kasi when you leave those features, let's say kung nagpatrolya tayo, then uuwi rin tayo sa Subic or sa Palawan later on. We're not actually asserting yung rights natin. We're actually strengthening yung argument nila. Because pag alis natin, nandun pa rin sila. Okay. So, kumbaga hindi pa tapos yung basketball game.
Nag-ice water na tayo.
Hindi nga 5 players pinadala natin, siguro 1 o 2 players lang eh. Tapos siguro for 5 minutes then babalik na ng beach. Yung kabila nandun pa rin, 5 players complete. Okay. So basically that's the best analogy I can craft in terms of yung trying to give a picture of ano yung dapat nating gawin.
Idagdag ko lang, Michael, no? Isa pa, we are made to understand that our choices are always a dichotomy of surrender and gera. That's not true. Kahit na nag-aaway, kahit na yung mag-asawa nga nagsasabunutan, mayroong minsan physical na, pero mag-asawa pa rin sila. The point there is that there are ups and downs in our relationship. And whatever is reported, na this is a new era, etc., that's part of diplomacy. We should not shut the door just because we are, the Vietnamese and the Chinese have a lot of trade in spite of the fact that the Vietnamese have been invaded. In 1979, they fought a war with the Chinese.
So I just wanted to point out, yung sinabi ni Rear Admiral Ong, yung presence, hindi kaya ngayon ng ating gobyerno, yung 5 ships or 3 ships in constant presence doon sa Scarborough or sa Ayungin.
Hindi pa kaya mag-field ng full team.
Yes. Is that a fact na hindi pa natin kaya? Kaya patrol in and out lang tayo?
There are creative ways of doing it. The first question is, where are all our ships? Both Navy and Coast Guard right now. And they're not all in the West Philippine Sea. They're doing something else which has nothing to do with protecting our sovereign rights of West Philippine Sea. Okay? Kasi they're scattered all over the archipelago eh. Okay? So maybe we look first at ano yung gaya nga sinabi ni Senator Orly, let's look at yung anong capabilities natin ngayon. Maybe we're not putting our players in the proper court. Baka yung 5 players natin imbes na nandun sa court na dapat tayo nakipagtunggalin nandun sa kabilang court.
Nagbabadminton, sir.
Nagbabadminton, not playing basketball. So that's one. Second is, kung kulang talaga yung resources, there are creative ways of doing it. The Malaysian Navy did it. Tinulang sila ng malalaking barko to patrol dun sa Horn of Africa during the height nung piracy incidents doon. So what did they do? Nag-lease sila ng commercial vessel, then pinuturahan nilang gray. Okay, then they deployed it there. Actually, I think it was a tanker eh. Kasi kailangan nila large ship. So a tanker, pinuturahan na lang ng gray, nagpapatrol doon, hindi maubusan ng fuel yun. Okay? Habang nagpapatrol doon. Usually, there are ways of doing, there are many different ways of skinning the cat in terms of approaches. We need to think out of the box eh. Ang hindi pwede yung ika-canalize natin yung sarili natin to a situation na wala kaming pera, wala kaming resources. Ika nga nung isang professor ko noon sa master's degree ko, if you want to be a successful revolutionary, you have to have a better strategy to offset yung minimum resources mo. Dito, I think we just need to have a better strategy.
Sabi nga ni Secretary Mercado yung focusing not on what we don't have, but making the most of what we do have. I want to talk about the arbitral award obviously in a bit, pero siguro, Sir Ronald, maybe walk us through the Aquino administration. When China talks about the 6 years under the late Benigno Aquino, parang they talk about it so sadly as a low point in relations. But can you walk us through how the Philippines interacted with China even before we filed that protest, the case, and then after? Like, how did ties continue?
Actually, nung naging presidente si President Aquino, ay ang image nga niya ay malapit sa China. Yung unang state visit niya is with China, hindi US. Traditionally, nauna yung US. Ikalawa ay hindi tayo dumalo dun sa Nobel Peace Prize awarding nung isang Chinese activist dissident, no? In deference sa China. At ikatlo, dito nga nagalit sa atin yung Taiwan, may mga nahuling mga criminal syndicate sa Pilipinas na ang request ng China sa kanila dalhin, hindi sa Taiwan. Yung tatlong incidents na yon ay in a way, no, ay deferring to mainland China. No? Pero nung nangyari yung incident sa Scarborough, nagbago lahat. No? Una, dati naman sineshare natin yung Scarborough with the Chinese, with the Taiwanese. No? Minsan nagkakaroon ng gulo tuwing magkakaroon ng poaching ng mga endangered species like tortoises, no? At saka mga giant clams. Pero yung traditional fishing, we coexist. No? Nung binoard natin yung isang Chinese fishing vessel dahil sa poaching, nagalit yung China. No? At doon nagsimula yung standoff. No? At marami na nangyari since then. I went to Hong Kong to meet with some Chinese Communist Party officials from mainland China. Inarrange siya ng isang Filipino-Chinese businessman para lang to break the ice. No? Pinayagan naman ako ng boss ko, si Pinoy, na pumunta. At yun yung tanong ko sa kanila, ano nangyari? Dati naman natin ginagawa ito eh. Naguhulihan tayo, pero pinapakawalan din natin. Bakit ngayon parang naging game changer? No? Itong, doon ko na halata na iba na yung kanilang attitude. Sabi nila ay, you cannot do this to us now. Sabi ko, bakit? We are now a superpower. So it's about face. It's no longer about yung dati nating kaayusan or unspoken arrangement. Sa alimbawa sa Baho de Masinloc. Yun yung isang kwan. Pero sabi nga ni Admiral Ong, ito yung kanilang maritime strategy. Yung kanilang maritime strategy ay hindi pwedeng maunawaan in a vacuum. Yung kanilang maritime strategy ay bahagi ng isang ideology. Bahagi yan ng isang dominant ideology na pinanggagalingan ng China at specifically si Xi Jinping. No? Yun yung dahil alam naman natin na tinatawag ng China yung sarili nila as a socialist country. No? At marami ng development ng kanilang ideology since the time ni Mao Zedong na binabanggit nga ni Secretary Orly Mercado. Hindi ko alam kung si Secretary Orly ay naniniwala kay Mao Zedong nung bata siya.
Ano araw? Yes.
Tapos
Because
nung...
the economic system has been proven.
Yes. Tapos nung 1978, nung panahon naman ni Deng Xiaoping, na binago na nila from the dominant ideology na nakasentro sa class struggle, doon na pumasok yung economic development, no? Yung usapin na ng opening up the economy to foreign investments at yung market economy. At after ni Deng Xiaoping, si Jiang Zemin na ang tawag naman sa kanyang ideology, the three represents, no? It's the relationship between the party and the communist and the Chinese people, no? At after niya si Hu Jintao, na doon naman pumasok yung usapin ng sustainable development, social welfare, no? At saka ecology, no? Ayan yung kwan. Medyo game changing itong si Xi Jinping. Dahil through all that time, yung dominant foreign policy ng China ay wag makipag-compete sa US, wag makipag-compete sa Western power. Let us outweigh them. The dominant foreign policy was basically shaped by the dominant ideologue since the time of Mao Zedong, si Zhou Enlai, na naging dominant din nung panahon ni Deng Xiaoping at nagpatuloy even before Xi Jinping. Pero nung naging presidente si Xi Jinping, diyan na pumasok itong aggression, itong pagiging aggressive, yung wolf diplomacy, no? Even before, kahit nagsisimula na yung assertion ng mainland China dito sa South China Sea, no? Ay medyo na manage pa yung mga tensions, no? Dahil ang nagsimula naman kasi niyang 9-dash line, hindi naman yung mainland China. Ang nagsimula niyan Taiwan no? Tawag pa nga nila niyan 11-dash line. Mas inintegrate yan ng mainland China sa kanilang foreign policy at saka sa kanilang economic and development policy nung bandang 70s at saka 80s na. Ito yung panahon na naubos yung isda sa sovereign waters ng China by almost 90%. Yung aquatic biomass dun sa coastal areas ng mainland China na wipe out sa overfishing. So, dun nagsimula yung kanilang tawag nila ay distant fishing strategy. Na from 13 fishing vessels, sila na ngayon ang pinakamalaki in terms of yung tinatawag na distant fishing vessels. Sila na rin yung pinakamalaki in terms ng environmentally destructive kind of fishing, yung bottom trawling, no? Na nakita natin a few months ago, yung pagkawasak ng ating coral reefs. Yan yung epekto nung kwan. Ang pinakamalaki ngayon na gumagawa niyan is China. Pero nagsimula yan mga 80s no? Nung di na nila mapakain yung kanilang populasyon ng aquatic resources dahil naubos na sila, no? Pero yung aggression ay talagang nag-scale up nung panahon ni Xi Jinping, no? Dahil tatlo yung kanyang layunin sa kanyang yung promisa niya sa Chinese people. Una, end absolute poverty. Na tingin niya, nagawa na niya. Ikalawa, national rejuvenation, which is i-unite yung buong China. No? Yung Xinjiang, kung saan nandun yung mga Uyghur, yung mga Muslims. Yung Tibet, na nagawa na naman nila. Tapos Hong Kong. No? Two systems, one country. At panghuli, yung Taiwan. No? Yan yung promisa niya. Diyan siya susukatin as a leader. At possibly, diyan siya tatayo o babagsak sa ganyang klase. Pero yung pinakamahalaga ay tingin niya, tapos na yung panahon nila Zhou Enlai na let us outweight the West. Ngayon, tingin niya, the objective conditions are there para maging superpower na sila, para malampasan na nila. At tingin ko, yan yung pinanggagalingan ng maraming dito sa mga tensions na ito. No? Imagine claiming 90% of the South China Sea, one of the most important, if not the most important waterway in the world, no? Against all odds, no? Even against UNCLOS na sila ay miyembro. Ironically, US ang hindi miyembro. No, China ang miyembro, pero China ang ayaw sumunod dun sa desisyon ng UNCLOS na hindi pwede yung inyong 9-dash line. No, that is against international law or any law, no, of the sea. So, tingin ko yun yung pinanggagalingan ng lahat ng ito. Na maritime strategy, itong mga scaling up ng aggression from laser to water cannon to barriers, no? At ngayon, direct ramming na. No? Tingin ko magpapatuloy ang mag-escalate. Sabi nga ng China Foreign Ministry, pumayag naman yung isang president ng Pilipinas natanggalin yung BRP Sierra Madre. No? That was part of their scaling up. Although wala namang umamin, nag-deny na si GMA, nag-deny na si Digong, hindi naman pwedeng si Pinoy, hindi rin pwedeng si BBM. So malamang si President... Oo, yung mga anak. No? At kaya malamang ang nagpromisa sa China na tanggalin yung BRP Sierra Madre ay si President Aguinaldo. No? Dahil wala namang pumayag. No? Pero yan ay part nitong scaling up. Ang kaba ko, ano yung susunod? After nitong ramming, after ng water cannon, after ng barrier, after ng laser, anong susunod dito sa ramming na scaling up? No? Yun yung nakakatakot. Dahil accidents happen Kahit hindi yan talaga planado, dahil sa ganyang klaseng aggression, magkakaroon talaga ng aksidente.
They will build on what they have already established. And they're already practically military bases, permanent bases.
Yeah.
I think yung scaling up also has to do with the response of the new president. Kasi although nung panahon ni Digong, nag-water cannon sila. Yun ang hindi ko masyadong maintindihan. Kung friendly na nga si Duterte, still they water cannon our resupply mission. But ngayon kay Marcos, because he pivoted back to the West, nag-ramp up sila.
Yes.
Response ba yun kay Marcos?
Kahit kasi nung panahon ni Digong, merong factions within the Communist Party. No? Fast forward, sa panahon ni Xi Jinping, halos nawala na lahat ng factions na yan. Pero nung panahon ni Digong, meron kang hawks at saka doves. The People's Liberation Army, yan yung hawkish. No? Mismo yung Communist Party ay hindi makakatanggi dyan. At yung talagang wolfish, hawkish, ay yung PLA. No? Kaya minsan, halimbawa, Navy vessels, militia vessels, Coast Guard vessels ng China ay hindi mapagsabihan ng Foreign Ministry ng China. O, dahil nga ay parang separate na kaharian yung PLA. No? Nung panahon ni Xi Jinping, siguro mas nagkaroon ng integration dahil binago niya yung buong leadership at hanggang middle level. Kaya tingin ko ngayon mas integrated yung PLA with the Communist Party. Pero kailangan nating unawain yung saan sila nanggagaling dahil in a country na almost absolute yung power ng presidente, no? This has never happened before since the time of Mao Zedong. So yung ideology, yung strategy ni Xi Jinping is what will define almost everything, no? South China Sea, no? Global competition, global economy, yung decoupling between China and the West, lahat yan ay isang tao nagpapasya niyan. No? Si Xi Jinping. Na sa ngayon, almost absolute yung kanyang power.
Yeah. You already also mentioned the change in approach under President Marcos. Top of mind yung transparency push led by primarily the Coast Guard kasi sila naman yung nagbibitbit ng media din on the BRP Cabra among the many ships. Maritas, how do you make sense of how the Marcos administration is handling its relationship with China?
Kasi nung una, we were quite deceived during the campaign. I mean, Bongbong didn't appear in debates,
Yes.
maybe just a few. So anyway, when he became president, nagulat, well, most of us were surprised or pleasantly surprised that he did not toe the line of Duterte. And a big change came nung nagkaroon ng transparency initiative. Na dati kasi kay Duterte, hindi ka sure the National Task Force on the West Philippine Sea would sometimes disclose yung mga skirmishes.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Or
quiet.
they'd be forced kung may
Oo,
media
kung may
account
nauna
na.
or kung may yung satellite from the
Yeah.
US, images from the Asia Maritime Transparency
Yeah.
Initiative. Na ngayon, yung time ni Marcos, nauuna na.
Yeah.
Very consistent from the beginning. So I think kaya din nagkakaroon na tayo ng information warfare. Dati parang distant yung skirmishes Doon nangyayari sa West Philippine Sea. Ngayon, it surrounds us kasi nagsasagutan na, nauuna na yung, I think, Bea, you know that after the collision, nauna yung China Coast Guard na mag-issue ng statement. She said 10 minutes
As early
after.
as 6:02, if I'm not mistaken, was the first statement from the China Coast Guard.
So
yeah.
before the collision.
Before the collision,
May
they said
statement na sila.
may blocking. Blocking yung term lang nila. They blocked the Philippine resupply mission.
So may ibang level na tayo na dapat pag-isipan din ng the government. How do they fight this information warfare apart from the real warfare that's happening? No?
To add to that, Marites, na magandang balita ngayon that the government is planning to sue for damages and taking off from the arbitral ruling. And this, I think, is something that we can prove, and it will happen. And so I think this needs the support of the entire country. And make sure that, we take this opportunity to be able to explain our narrative, or else, alam mo, considering, with them, we're poor, we are not capable of, hindi tayo pwedeng bumangga sa China, etc. That's baloney. So,
Yun nga yung sinasabi nung nagkaroon kami ng konting debate ni Senator Robin Hood Padilla. No? Ay, di ba, ang sinasabi niya, bakit tayo humihingi ng tulong sa ibang bansa? Medyo hindi niya naunawaan na hindi lang multifaceted yung issue sa South China Sea. Yung isang issue rito, yung ating claims, yung ating entitlements, lalo na after the UNCLOS victory. Ito yung West Philippine Sea. Yung ating EEZ, kung saan yung ayungin ay nandun. Kung saan yung Baho de Masinloc ay nasa loob. No? Yan yung isa. Pero yung isa is yung freedom of navigation. Na hindi lang natin concern ng buong mundo. No? So hindi lang tayo humihingi ng tulong, no, para dun sa ating claims. Yung mga ibang bansa from Australia to Europe, even to India, South Korea, ay interesado rito dahil this is an important waterway. No? Kaya freedom of navigation is a dominant issue not only for the Philippines but for the world.
Yeah.
Yung ikatlong issue, it's about Taiwan. No? It's a more complicated issue. No? Pero malinaw naman sa ating constitution, we renounce war as an instrument of foreign policy. Pero yan yung pinapaliwanag natin na multifaceted issue rito. It's not simply na humihingi tayo ng tulong, it's also the world asserting their right to the freedom of navigation in this most important waterway in the world.
Rear Admiral Ong, I wonder, to jump on your metaphor of basketball, at this point, is the Marcos administration using its forwards, its centers, its guards shooting, point guard, is it using its resources enough? So resources thinking about the Navy, obviously, the Philippine Coast Guard, but also the Philippine media na sinasama nila sa mga resupply missions, pati rin sa maritime patrols, minsan sinasama din nila yung media. Is the Marcos administration tapping all of its tools correctly at this point?
Okay, siguro what we need to do is deconstruct yung levers of power that's being employed right now. And Senator already knows this. We use yung we call it DIME. Yung diplomacy, information, military, tsaka yung economic levers of power. Okay, sa diplomatic part, nagma-manifest ito sa yung restoration ng ating the Philippine-US alliance. Okay? Then yung extension of strategic partners, yung engagement natin with the other strategic partners, Australia, Japan, etc. Then yung what I call the emerging trilateral cooperative arrangement between the Philippines, the US, and Japan. So that is the diplomatic part. No, sorry. It's actually yung military diplomacy part of the toolkit. Yung information part, that's diyan gumagalaw yung Coast Guard, sila Commodore J. Tariela. It's actually counter disinformation or kasi may information war that's happening and it's a battle of narrative. So this is where the Coast Guard is coming in the forefront. They are engaging we are engaging the Chinese narrative. Okay, in the battle of what I call the international public opinion space. Kasi public opinion is also what we battle space na ngayon yan Okay? Dagdagan po pa ng technology, now it's cognitive warfare. So that's the I part. The military part, this is where we look at yung capabilities ng armed forces natin. Admittedly, marami pang kailangan punuan, but gaya na sinabi ko kanina, it doesn't mean na kung hindi ka, if you do not have the ideal resources that you think you need, it stops you from actually addressing yung problem right now with your current capabilities. So to me, it's a matter of imagination and thinking out of the box. In coming up with a non-kinetic military solution to the problem in the West Philippine Sea. The E part, yung economic part, this is where we need to strengthen yung ating bansa against potential economic coercion ng China. And dito tatawid yung another conversation we have on United Front Work, yung influence operations, trying to co-op our political and economic leaders. Ang method of intervention dito is through economic coercion. Okay. We look at yung foreign direct Chinese FDIs o foreign direct investments, tainted siya kasi may nakapalaman siyang strategic interest na nakakabit sa ambition ng China. Okay? So aside from yung maritime strategy, mayroon din siyang co-optation strategy na ang target niya yung ating elites who are the decision makers. Okay?
Babalikan ko yung sinasabi na ukol dito sa case na ipa-file. Dapat talaga mamuno tayo sa environmental issue ito. Matigil na yung illegal, unregulated, and unregistered fishing. That is also destroying the coral reefs. And after they have overfished their territorial waters, they're doing it to us. This is a threat to national security, human security. Wala na tayo
not just ours, the region.
And the world now is concerned about global warming. It's concerned about what to do to stop things that we have not been paying attention to. So I think it is in this environmental issue that we should be the leader.
Yan yung problema natin. Dahil apat yung objectives ng China vis-a-vis yung South China Sea. No? Yung isa ay yung kanilang fishing industry is one of the major economic dynamo ng China. No? It provides employment. It provides huge earnings. It provides food. 30% ng lahat ng isda na harvest around the world inuubos ng Chinese population. No? So, at ikaapat, yung mga fishing vessels nila nagdo-double as militia. Ito yung tinatawag nila Admiral tsaka ni Secretary na gray zone activity nila. No? So, yan yung kinakaharap natin vis-a-vis China. It's kaya hindi pwedeng talakayin siya as just one aspect, kundi multi-aspect ng nitong problemang ito. Pero yung naging kasaysayan natin, at least yung immediate history, you have a very pro-China president. Even Marcos was very pro-China for a long time. No? Si BBM, almost every year nasa China yan eh.
Nung
Yan-
governor siya.
Oo, yan lang ang alam ko na binigyan ng exhibit ng Chinese Embassy 2 years ago. Ginawa na exhibit, no, isang politician sa loob ng Chinese Embassy. So, very close sila dyan. No? Pero, hindi nag-deliver ang China. Eh. No? Halimbawa, nung panahon ni Digong, meron silang commitment na 400 hectares sa Clark to develop an industrial estate. Walang nangyari. Meron silang 3 fast train project na biro mo, first time tayo magkakaroon ng fast train. No? At least in image, mahalaga yan, no? Et cetera, et cetera. Walang nangyari sa lahat ng ito, maliban doon sa 2 tulay sa Intramuros. No? At yung $24-25 billion na commitment nila, less than $1 billion ang pumasok. Tingin ko ito ay mahalaga kay BBM.
Yeah.
Nung pumunta siya noong January 6 sa first state visit niya sa China, nakita niya na walang mangyayari dito. No? Wala na naman, nag-commit na naman ng 22 billion. At kalahati nun ay mga rehash ng mga
promises,
projects with Duterte.
Yes.
So, hindi naman ganun kabobo si Presidente para ma-realize na niloloko siya ng China. Kaya tingin ko mahalaga yung visit na yon, as well as yung dun sa mga developments vis-a-vis US, Australia, the entire Western community before yung visit. No? Pero yung visit noong January 6, clinch it. Alam niya walang maibibigay yung China.
Ironic because Beijing thought, schedule talaga siya na first state visit. May isa pa dapat mauuna nun eh, na visit. They thought it would bring Manila closer to them.
Yes.
But I think Marcos Jr. was already predisposed to the West. Nag-aral siya sa UK, although hindi siya natapos ng kolehiyo, although from boarding school to college, and then
The US,
postgraduate studies in the US. So, very predisposed to the West. And when he visited
New
York for the first
Yes.
time, the first visit overseas visit niya as president, kitang-kita mo na yung glow in his
Yeah.
face that he really, really enjoyed
Yeah.
and loved the US.
And he said he cannot imagine a future of the
I think
Philippines without the
so
United
predisposed
States.
siya. And then he saw also the realization during the Beijing visit and what happened after.
Saka walang F1 race sa China yata.
Wala pa. Marites, you've been tracking the Philippines' foreign relations. You've been talking to envoys even. How is the Philippines managing the support that it's getting? Kasi you have countries like India, South Korea being more vocal. South Korea recently reacted to the October 22 collision. India, for the first time, made a
Yes.
statement on the anniversary of the arbitral ruling. Like, are we making the most of the support that we're getting at this rate?
Well, una kasi I think it's also the changing geopolitical environment. After Ukraine was invaded by Russia, the question was, will Taiwan be next? Since we're geographically very close to Taiwan, parang suddenly all these countries were looking at us because of our geography. We're now indispensable to this new geopolitics. So, nakakagulat, India also starting to side with US a bit. So they supported our arbitral ruling for the first time. Parang, hello, where have you been? We won in 2016.
Yeah.
And then South Korea openly endorsed. They also had a new leader who visited Biden. So parang it's all converging. And then Australia, we upgraded our relationship, strategic relationship na tayo ngayon. And then remember first visit ng European Commission President
Yes.
in decades?
Yes.
So ang daming firsts.
Yeah. And one of the major points that they talked about was maritime security.
Yes. So parang the factors are converging. And I think mabilis naman yung ibang developments like Coast Guard to Coast Guard training with India, and I think with Australia. The foreign minister came to visit Manila, and she visited the Coast Guard specifically and promised drones, assistance, whatever, and even Navy to Navy. So I think hindi ko alam kung are we tapping full advantage, pero it's moving.
Yeah.
Parang
But the
cooperation.
resources are there now. more than before.
Yeah, the assistance and the, I don't know if I call them alliances, but maybe cooperation, trilateral,
Like-minded countries.
cooperation, trilateral, quadrilateral, more frequent, high visible military exercises. So there's something new in the air.
Yun ang sinasabi ni Kevin Rudd.
Yeah.
Na you should travel. This is talking about the countries who have claims in South China Sea. You should travel in a pack. Don't be a lone wolf.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what's happening. But unfortunately, you know, what we have to communicate and what we have to really tell our people and engage our people in determining is definition of our long-term national interests. Because one of the biggest problems that we have in public administration is continuity. Continuity of policy. We have always been saying, you know, strategy is in the DNA of the Chinese. They see their country in the context of millennia. We see our country in the context of the next
6
election.
years, yeah.
And we have elections every 3 years. We cannot even sit down.
Not even the presidential elections.
There is no continuity.
Yeah.
Alam mo yung Sierra Madre is an example of the lack of continuity. Nung wala na kami, paano man lang ano? And I found out, walang records, walang mga documents. Hindi tayo mahilig mag-document ng ano. And then kasi, hindi rin maganda ang documentation natin, we do not refer to it also. So the point there is also having a transition wherein what is clear is that you have a national interest. Because foreign policy is just an extension of domestic policy. So we have to really, ano ba, food security natin to, territory natin. Ngayon, at least now, when I listen to Justice Carpio, mukhang nagsisink in na sa psyche natin na ang mawawala sa atin dito sa claim natin, yung maritime resources natin, doble pa, mahigit na doble pa, doon sa pinagsama-sama nating terrestrial resources, yung mga land mass natin.
Mahalaga yung sabi ni Secretary, no? Dahil nung 2017, nag-lead ako ng isang delegation to China. Nakapagsalita ako dun sa kanilang Communist Party School. Nag-exchange kami, nag-lecture sila about socialism with Chinese characters. Tapos nag-update din ako dun sa nature ng Philippine state. Talagang worlds apart yung difference because they have an ideological state which can think in generations. No, yun yung kaibahan sa atin. Sabi nga ni Secretary, tayo we plan for the next election, no? Yung kanilang strategy of outweighting the West ay based dun sa ganung klaseng reality, no? They have a 10-year plan, they have a 20-year plan, they have a 50-year plan, they even have a 100-year plan, no? Tayo, I'm not even sure if most of our leaders know how to plan, no? Pero yung isang sinabi nila nung nandun ako, sabi niya, how can you be a nation with warlords and dynasties, no, ruling over most of the country? Sabi nila, we killed and destroyed our warlords in the 1950s, no? You can never start thinking, planning as a nation if you are governed by warlords and dynasties. Yun yung isang exchange namin in 2017. No? They're not entirely wrong. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na kailangan patayin lahat ng ating warlords. No? Pero they're not entirely wrong dyan sa kanilang observation sa atin. No? Batay dun sa sinabi rin ni Secretary. Pero malaki rin ngayon yung tingin ko itong pinag-uusapan natin, mag-escalate ba ito? Tingin ko mag-escalate not only by design, but because of the problems of China. Ang audience ng China is not the world.
Yeah.
Ang audience ng China ay yung kanilang sariling populasyon. At sa ngayon, ang daming problema ng China. Slowing down yung kanilang economic development, yung kanilang target na carbon neutral by 2060 ay malayong maabot. Yung may purging na nangyayari ngayon. Nakita natin, 2 defense minister yung natanggal, napalitan in just a few months. Yung foreign minister napalitan. Yung almost the entire command ng kanilang nuclear arsenal na wipe out. No? So may purging na nangyayari ngayon sa kanila. No? At yung Belt and Road Initiative nila, which is their strategy to shape the world, ay jogging in place. No?
Yeah.
Nakakaroon sila ng problema. Kaya tingin ko, more and more, gagamitin ng China itong tension sa South China Sea para makaiwas sila dun sa mga problema nila sa loob at ma-divert yung attention ng mga nagrereklamo, nagsisimulang magreklamo, lalo na yung kabataan. Ang laki ng kanilang demographic problem.
Yeah.
Ang laki ng bagsak ng kanilang population. No? Kaya nga nalampasan sila ng India just a few months ago as the biggest population in the world. Pero hindi lang yan. Ang laki ng difference between yung older generation at saka yung younger. In the medium term, that will be catastrophic for them. So, itong mga problema, kailangan nilang mag-create ng kalaban. Kaya hindi ako magtataka kung yung kanilang wolf diplomacy will be more wolfish in the next few years.
But isn't it also an opportunity for the Philippines naman, sir? Nagkakagulo sila doon? Or is it purely that, or are we looking at it at purely that perspective lang?
If we have a plan and a strategy, no, especially in our relationship with the world, no, yun yung
Yung mga autocrats naman when they get into trouble because of domestic problems, invade. That's get into a war.
Dalawa yung hindi pwedeng ma-antagonize ni Xi Jinping. The PLA and the middle class. No, ito yung 400 million middle class sa China. Pag yan ay makaramdam ng downtrend economically, no, yung kanyang leadership will be greatly threatened. Yan yung dalawa. Kaya lahat ng kanyang gagawin na diplomacy, etc., ay nakatali how to appease those two power blocks. Lalo na ngayon na wala ng faction. Kamamatay lang ni Li Keqiang. That's the leader of the reformist faction before. Nakakulong pa rin si Bo Xilai, the leader of the Maoist faction. No? So, tingin ko, yan yung mahalagang obserbahan. How Xi Jinping will react to these two power centers inside China.
Admiral Ong, I also wonder, kasi yung pitch or yung push ni Secretary Mercado of being the rallying point of countries in the region, at this point, do we have the capacity to do that? And then I'll ask you the same question also, sir, but first si Admiral muna.
This is a question that I think I posed in a previous similar interview, no? Ang tanong doon is, are we prepared to assume the role of a middle power? Kasi I think we do have the requisites of the middle power, pero do we have the confidence to assume that role? Okay? Kasi it doesn't matter kung yung nature ng politics natin magulo, hindi. It's either a middle power or not, and it has to do with yung combination of yung activities and actions of all these political actors in the country. So that's the question: are we prepared to assume the role of middle power? Kasi kung hindi, then I don't think we can step up as the rallying point. But I would like to go back to the point that was raised by Senator Orly on national interest. If we define our relationship with other countries, with the US, with our strategic partners, ASEAN, from the salente nung kumbaga ang center would be national interest, properly defined, and everybody has a leveling of in terms of nagkakaintindihan, walang misinterpretation what national interest is. Then that can be the focal point of how we relate with our other countries. Kumbaga, we borrow a page from the US Pacific Command o yung Indo-PACOM now, yung hub and spokes strategy nila, which is a system of bilateral security alliances or arrangements with the Indo-Pacific. Kasi wala namang NATO eh. Wala namang NATO rito sa Pacific side of the world eh. Kumbaga, if we look at ourselves as the quote-unquote hub and look at our relationships as spokes, and the hub is defined by yung national interests, I think we can develop the confidence to become a middle power. Okay.
Secretary?
Meron mga nagtanong sa akin minsan sa isang forum, hindi ba kasama ka sa 12 na senador na bumoto laban sa base militar ng Amerika? Bakit ngayon sinasabi mo ang mga pag-asa natin yung Mutual Defense Treaty? I said, that's very good. You have mentioned the Mutual Defense Treaty. Hiwala yung Mutual Defense Treaty since 1951. At saka yung
US
treaty
bases.
about permanent bases.
Yes.
Extraterritoriality.
Yes. And during that particular time, we felt that permanent bases for the Americans exacts so much political cost, not only for them, but for us. And,
Exactly.
that was, I think, one of the major reasons, aside from getting our honor and being a sovereign country when we celebrated our 100th anniversary as a republic. Kaya sa akin, sa tingin ko, importante na maisip natin na nagbabago rin ang posisyon natin eh. Kasi sa atin, laging pinapipili tayo ng yung mga narrative na narinig natin sa media. Yung dichotomy, false na yung dichotomy, extremes pa. Yung bang, you have a choice between two
Walang
extremes.
middle.
There are no shades of gray. There are shades of gray, aside from the Nobel.
And the gray zone operation.
The specific reason operations of China.
Last year, tinawag ni Xi Jinping yung Quad as the new NATO. No? Hindi ko alam kung tama yung sinabi niya. No? Pero na-threaten siya. India, US, Japan, Australia. No? Hindi ko din alam kung saan papunta yung Quad na yan. No? Ang problema kasi natin, we cannot rely on ASEAN. Because ASEAN, ang kwan dyan, is the least common denominator.
Yeah.
And you have at least 2 countries there. Hindi naman ako diplomatic, kaya pwede kong sabihin, who are practically provinces of China. No? Kaya hindi ka makakakuha ng unity sa ASEAN habang ganyan yung system. No? I'm not sure about Quad. Siguro tatanungin ko si Secretary at saka si Admiral, ano ba yung possible future ng Quad nitong alliance na ito? Dahil since nung ma-launch siya, wala masyadong balita. No?
Hindi naman military arrangements yan eh. Not,
Yes.
per se. But what is important to remember is that katulad ng ASEAN, ang problema rin yan is that we did not want to talk about security. You know, I had the privilege of being the first permanent representative to ASEAN. And I felt very uncomfortable with the ASEAN way, where everybody has to agree. Parang merong veto power ngayon eh. Paano ba naman, why can't we? Now,
Disagreement is not welcome.
Merong successes naman ng ASEAN, in fairness to ASEAN. In the economic cooperation, it has worked. But in the political security, they cannot even they cannot even discipline Myanmar for discarding a duly elected regime.
Admiral?
I would agree, no, may problematic yung ASEAN eh. Yung internal dynamics niya does not lend itself to security cooperation. Now, as far as the Quad naman, I know for a fact yung Quad is not being packaged as a military alliance. I think they're trying to move away from that packaging. Of course, there are may undercurrent of security cooperation there. But kumbaga, if you want to define that animal, it's kumbaga, it's a theoretical animal eh. It's a chameleon eh. It doesn't have shape and form that lends itself to yung uneasy definition. Now, one time I attended a parang seminar dito sa Singapore on basically can Quad and ASEAN work. My point is ASEAN cannot work with US in a US-China strategic competition environment. Okay. Masyadong malaki yung influence ng China sa Southeast Asia, particularly sa ASEAN, para banggain in that context of a security cooperation regime. Kasi China, ito yung yung difference between the US and China is the US operates at a geopolitical defense and security type of engagements. Si China operates at a geo-economic sphere. Okay. So it uses economy as the way of, kumbaga na-weaponize niya si Adam Smith
Yeah.
Weaponize niya si Adam Smith to suit its interest. Okay. So kaya ang hirap tibagin yung influence niya within Southeast Asia. Particularly if you have a US or America that doesn't want to do free trade agreements. Okay. Kumbaga sa kanya, bad word sa kanya yung tatlong words na yun, free trade agreement. Okay. Domestic politics niya will not allow that. So, ano pa yung pag-uusapan ng US tsaka ASEAN? If US does not lend itself to a more immersive economic engagement. Ang kagandahan lang, makita natin yung result yung engagement ng US sa atin in the readouts of the various arrangements or agreements between us in the past years. It was a security cooperative arrangement agreement pero may nakataki na economic. Okay? Kasi medyo I think na meron din yung messaging natin sa kanila medyo nag-resonate na you cannot expect cooperation of the Philippines on a purely security type na relationship lang. Kailangan economic din. And that goes actually for the rest of Southeast Asia.
I just want to note also na speaking of ASEAN, the Chinese embassy in Manila made sure to note in its statement yesterday, US naman yung inaway nila kahapon Chinese embassy, inaway yung US embassy, and I believe back in China, in the mainland, inaway naman nila yung US State Department mismo for their statements related to. And the Chinese embassy specifically noted that no other country in the region, presumably referring to ASEAN, released any statement in support of the Philippines sa October 22 na coalition. So, China is very much taking note of the fact na quiet yung ASEAN. I want to talk naman about the arbitral award. Maritas, kasama kita nung forum ng Stratbase with all the ambassadors in attendance, one by one, affirming their support of the award. But I wonder, have we made the most out of the award that we worked hard for?
I think nung past 6 years under Duterte, we did not. But now, nakakagulat medyo na hearing the President and now the Defense Secretary and other officials really rally behind the arbitral ruling. And very clear from the start, yung DFA na the twin pillars of our policy on West Philippine Sea is arbitral ruling and UNCLOS. And then that has been the message of Marcos nung first trips niya overseas. He said it in ASEAN-EU Summit, sinabi niya sa ASEAN, everywhere he went, nandun yung messaging niya. So, we are making use of the arbitral ruling.
Gusto ko yung statement ni Secretary Boying Remulla na talagang they're preparing to file a damages claim. Tapos sabi niya dapat palitan na nga yung South China Sea as Sea of Asia. It may look like a small thing, etc. But ako,
West Philippine Sea na tayo.
Hindi, para
A sea of many names. So, tahimik ka sa arbitral award.
Yeah, tingin ko on a diplomatic global level ay malaki yung naging role ng arbitral award. Lahat diyan nagde-defer. Last year nga nung na-meet ko yung isang high-ranking Vietnamese official na Alaska ko siya. Dahil when we filed the case, nung nagkaroon ng hearing sa Den Haag na kasama ako, nandun yung mga neighbors natin. Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, observing, no? At nakausap ko sila, sabi nga nung Vietnamese, pagkatapos nyo, kami naman ang magfa-file. So yung Vietnamese na yun, na-meet ko last year, sabi ko, kala ko pa susunod kayo sa amin. Sabi nila, hindi na kailangan dahil nanalo na kayo eh. So ibig sabihin, lahat naman nire-recognize yung ating achievement, no, dyan. Ako, mas one step backward eh. Mas kinakailangan pa nating unite yung Filipino people around this award. No? Kaya nga, meron ngayong mga groups na gumagawa ng UNCLOS for Beginners animation. No? Dahil, ibig sabihin, hindi pa rin ganun karami yung nakakaunawa nung award. No? Ano bang ibig sabihin nung entitlements? Anong ibig sabihin nung UNCLOS decision na hindi pwedeng gawin ng China na term of reference yung mga lifeless rocks, no? As basis ng kanilang EEZ. No? Yung tayo mas madali natin maunawaan, but most Filipinos hindi pa yan naunawaan. Anong ibig sabihin ng West Philippine Sea? Anong ibig sabihin ng 9 dash line na ngayon 10 dash line na? Anong ibig sabihin ng UNCLOS victory natin? No? So kinakailangan pa natin kuwan. Kaya nga itong isang grupo na nag-organize ng convoy sa Ayungin.
Sa Christmas.
Yeah, it's less about the convoy itself. It's more about the information drive, no, na ipaunawa sa tao. Anong ibig sabihin ng Ayungin, no? Dito sa ating victory. Anong ibig sabihin nitong West Philippine Sea, no? Tingin ko 'yun yung kinakailangan pang balikan para talagang united yung buong bansa around our claims, no? Dahil maliit na nga tayo, hindi tayo kasing powerful ng China, which is the biggest navy in the world, no? Pero kahit maliit tayo, baka kaya makapuwing, no? Sabi ko nga dun sa meeting sa Hong Kong noong 2011, dun sa representatives ng Communist Party, sabi ko, we cannot defeat you in 20 years, in 50 years, even 100 years. But be careful. We have a weapon you do not have. We have 15 million overseas Filipinos who are very good actors. We can make the South China Sea our wailing wall. We can make you look bad. Yun yung sabi ko sa kanila.
And do they respond to that though?
Well,
them looking bad?
Tahimik sila, no? Dahil syempre alam din nila yung kanilang history. They were former guerrillas. Alam naman nila yung weapons of the weak. No? Sabi nga ni Secretary, no? Guerrilla warfare is the weapon of the weak, no? Kaya alam nila na nauunawaan din natin yung weapons na yon, no? We fought the Spaniards, we fought the Americans, we fought the Japanese.
Alam mo, napaka-importante niyan. Lagi kong tinuturo sa mga estudyante ko yan eh. 3 salita na napaka-importante. Hindsight, insight, foresight. Wala kang hindsight kung di mo naintindihan yung kasaysayan eh. Kung paano tayo napunta rito. That's the only time you will understand why you got in such a mess, if I may put it that way. And later on, project. Kaya laging dapat yan eh. Alam mo na sa kultura naman natin yan eh. Ang hindi lumingon sa pinanggalingan ay hindi makararating sa paroroonan. Tapos ngayon, kaya ako narito, etc. Then, we can think ahead. Ay, mga sinasabi, marami naman mga lessons sa think ahead, think again, think across. Thank you to the Singaporeans.
Kaya in relation doon sa sinasabi ko na uniting, educating our own population, we have to fix our system. We have to fix our nation. Soon.
Sooner than later. Siguro to wrap up this discussion, no, we understand where China is coming from. They have a 100-year vision. We have a vision that's good until 2025, which is 2 years from now. But siguro back to the main question na, yes, of course, in the context of the coalition on October 22, we are worried about the safety of our PCG personnel, of our AFP personnel. But why should, connected to what you said earlier, na the mission to Ayungin isn't just about getting to Ayungin, but the information drive along the way? Why should the average Filipino na malayo sa Zambales, malayo sa Baho de Masinloc, malayo sa Palawan even, why should they pay closer attention to what's happening in the West Philippine Sea? Maybe you can start with Admiral Ong.
I take a different track dito, no? What's happening in the West Philippine Sea is the kumbaga sideshow eh. The real importanteng challenge, yung nangyayari mismo sa lupa natin. Okay. So, yung ating, kumbaga, we call it in the Navy, sea blindedness eh. Yung hindi tayo aware sa maritime history natin, sa maritime traditions, yung maritime heritage natin. That's sea blindedness eh. But that's also a reflection of yung pagkukulang din natin dito sa lupa, dito sa kinatututuan natin. So, West Philippine Sea is also a reflection ng yung lack of sense of nation natin. Okay. If we cannot fight for something that is yung a resource that is important for livelihood, as basic as that, how much more kung we fight for something that is more yung kumbaga basic principles na. Okay. Again, yung word na national interest, I think, still, to me, is the centerpiece of everything. Whether it is dito sa lupa or nasa West Philippine Sea, are we in agreement of what our national interest is? Kasi kung hindi, doon tayo nagkaka-disconnect eh. Nagiging subject to misinterpretation and misinterpretation by both the public and our political leaders.
Whoever wants to.
Sige.
May mga magagandang simula eh. Halimbawa, narinig ko last week na may grupo ng mga estudyante, student organizations, balak magkaroon ng caravan from one school to another para ipaliwanag itong UNCLOS victory, itong West Philippine Sea, itong mga latest developments, latest aggressions. No? So, pupunta yan sa iba't ibang mga schools. Itong nabanggit ko na convoy, it's a Christmas convoy. Bakit Christmas? No? Mga boats yan, mga bangka ng mga mangingisda na nakabihis Pasko. Parol, Christmas tree, Belen, no? Mga regalo. Ibig sabihin, pag hinarang yan, anong itsura ng China? Pag pinadaan, panalo. So it's a political judo. Damn if you do, damn if you don't. Which is practically guerrilla warfare. No? At hindi yan military. Pero yung political impact niyan can be as important, no, as a physical engagement, no. Itong alam ko may mga nag-organize ng concerts this November, at saka December, at saka even Valentine, no, para sa West Philippine Sea na hindi nangyari before, no. So yung mga ganyang classic mga activities na sana dumami, no, ay hindi lang usapin ng engagement. Usapin yan ng education, organizing, at usapin yan ng paano makakapuwing sa pinakamalaking army, pinakamalaking navy sa buong mundo. No? So, tulad ng pinag-uusapan natin kanina, it's about using our limited strength, no, in the most efficient, effective way. Kaya yung sinasabi ni Admiral Ong, it's not simply balance of forces. It's also about asymmetrical engagement sa pinakamakapangyarihan o at least isa sa pinakamakapangyarihang bansa sa buong mundo.
Ako, practical, kasi tinatanong tayo lagi as journalists, why should we care about West Philippine Sea? One practical reason is that it's a source of food.
Yeah.
It's a source of
Energy.
Energy and food. Napaka-importante for our country. So that's really, those are big practical reasons. The second one, maybe it's more abstract, is to assert our sovereignty because the facts are very clear. Siyempre, kahit na hindi mo basahin yung 500-page decision ng arbitral tribunal, makikita mo naman ano yung, if you read the last pages, ano yung talagang entitlements, saan tayo may rights. So to assert those rights, napaka-importante naman for us. And it's part of the education process that Ronald was talking about.
Konting dagdag lang ba sa sinabi ni Marites, no? So, mahalaga yan no? Yung aquatic resources, yung food, no? Lalo na ngayon na winawasak even the coral reefs, no? Yan. Pero hindi ko lang makalimutan yung kwento sa akin ng isang mangingisda na sabi niya, mangingisda dyan yung mga malalaking Chinese fishing trawlers. Pag napuno na yung kanilang hold, no, tinatapon nila yung mga maliliit na mga isda. No, para mas may space pa para yung malalaking isda na mas mahal ay mailagay nila. So itatapon nila yung mga latak. Tapos aalis sila. No? Tapos pupunta yung ating mangingisda, pupulutin yung kanilang tapon. No? Pupulutin. Namumulot tayo. No? Sa ating sariling territorial water, sa ating sariling EEZ. Pero pag nakita tayo ng gray ships, nung Coast Guard ng China, itataboy tayo. Ibig sabihin, namumulot na tayo, itataboy pa tayo. So it's also about national integrity, national dignity, as well as food. Dahil hindi dapat magpatuloy yan. At yan ay kinakailangan nating ipaalam sa mas malaking bahagi ng ating populasyon.
Sabi nga nila tayo mga Pilipino, yung concept ng self maliwanag yan At alam nila na ang Pilipinas, ang mga tao, ang mga Pilipino, pagdating sa pamilya, iba yan. So we know, we have a concept of self, a concept of family. But when you go to the community, medyo, rin, kahit na, total, bakante naman yung tampunan natin ng basura yun. But we don't know or we don't care much about it. You know, we can make a difference in little ways. But kumakanta tayo ng bayang magiliw ng lupang hinirang. Tapos handa tayong mamatay, sumisigaw pa tayo sa dito ng mamatay. Kung merong manlulupig na susugod dito, nakahanda tayong mamatay. Paano ba natin ituturo yan kung ang unang tinuturo natin, hindi natin kaya yan, bigay na natin yan, mga rocks lang yan, etc. Let's expand our view and ask ourselves, can we make a difference? Can we make a difference? Sa ibang tao, sabi nila, may diferensya ba ako?
Sabi nga ni ex-President Duterte 2 weeks ago, tubig lang yan Ibigay na natin yan sa China. Ibigay na natin yan kay Xi Jinping. Kunin na lang natin yung isda. No? Baka may alam siyang technology paano iiwala yung dagat sa isda.
Kaya natin makuha.
Kaya look at the damage na ginawa niya, 6 years, na suppress yung ating desire to even talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it, pero walang concerted effort. Even the DFA, Foreign Affairs Department, nung time ni Digong, they couldn't organize meetings in our embassies overseas because the Foreign Secretary at that time, si Alan Peter Cayetano, disallowed it.
Pero mo, nanalo tayo during his first year ni Duterte. Diba? Doon yung victory 2016.
Days, weeks after he won.
Yeah.
What a loss.
Siguro to wrap up this discussion also, we've touched on this a little actually, and we've also, kumbaga, expounded on why we should pay attention. Hopefully, clearly, the Marcos administration understands why this is important. So, in case they're watching, the decision makers of the administration, presumably they kind of know what to do moving forward, again, with the context of the worry that the coalition won't be the most extreme potential situation in the West Philippine Sea. What should they do immediately? Kasi in a few weeks, there's another resupply mission, again, to Sierra Madre. Sure na yun. Like, it's a regular...
Navy guy.
Of course, we will start with the Admiral.
Change the schedule.
Yung collision kasi it's a calibrated collision, by the way, no? So,
yes.
Calibrated action. But in the firmament or in the spectrum of non-kinetic actions in terms of rules of engagement, allowed kasi yun yung ramming, that is part and part, nasa toolkit yun graduated actions. Of course, the most extreme is what we call the use of deadly force.
Yeah.
Okay, yun yung pinaka-most extreme. So, yung spectrum na yun, malawak pa rin marami pa rin sila pwedeng gawin.
So,
short of deadly force. Okay. And we should be prepared for that. Okay. We cannot devise a plan or a concept that relies on the good graces of the Chinese. We should always assume the worst. Kasi if we rely on their good graces na hindi naman kami aanuhin yan, medyo you're living in a different world. Na that's not how tactics are run. You assume the worst and prepare accordingly.
Any
Ay,
other
kung hindi tayo kikilos, hindi tayo mangangagat, ang mangyayari niyan, kakagating tayo ng China, hindi tayo ngunguyain, lulunukin tayo ng buong buo. Kaya kailangan kumilos tayo.
Wala ng basketball, wala ng badminton sitwasyon na yan.
I'm trying to imagine a scenario na we take them by surprise, but hindi nga pwede kasi they're always there.
Yeah.
So even if you change the schedule of the resupply,
Yeah.
and maybe you start from another place, take off mo ibang lugar,
Yeah.
they will still know about it. Kasi may satellite sila.
Yeah.
So hindi ko alam kung may pwedeng magkaroon ng element of surprise
But Canada recently gave us access to
to their satellite, which can...
dark
Anyway,
vessel detection.
so let's see. Ako hindi ko alam what's next.
Gentlemen, and
Tingin ko they're really setting the predicate para tanggalin yung BRP Sierra Madre. How soon? I'm not sure.
That is still a commissioned vessel
Exactly.
of the Philippine Navy.
Exactly, no?
That will trigger, definitely.
Yes. Yeah.
President Biden has said it yesterday.
yeah, you reminded
Yes.
everyone.
Pero ang tingin kasi nila ngayon, the US is stretched. Middle East, Ukraine, etc. Kalawa, they're waiting for the election next year. Sino bang mananalo? No?
I see.
So, meron silang mga sariling mga senaryo na hinahanda. No? Itong mga Chinese are not amateurs. No? So, pinaghahandaan nila yung iba't ibang senaryo na mangyayari. At tinatansya nila if handa ba ang US na tumaya. No? Tingin ko, for now, handa.
Yeah.
Iba yung nangyari sa Mischief Reef noong 1991. No?
95.
Yun yung, pero, ang tingin ng China, the US, at least politically, ay very turbulent din. Kita mo naman yung nangyari sa US Congress. No? Just 5 congressmen na sabotahe yung speaker.
Democracy is messy,
Yeah.
but it is democratic. Yan namang, it looks orderly,
Yeah.
yung autocracy, yung dictatorship, it looks orderly.
Yeah.
There's chaos.
But the roots, the innards
Yeah.
are not strong.
And there's chaos within the facade of...
It sows the seed of its own destruction.
Wala na.
We're good.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I tried to call them legends. They refused. But I think after that discussion, I think I've earned the right to call them legends. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. And hopefully, hindi naman kickstarting, no, pero adding to the discussion, adding to understanding, and hopefully cutting through the noise that's out there, especially online, about issues surrounding the West Philippine Sea, specifically Ayungin Shoal and the BRP Sierra Madre. Thank you so much for watching. Again, my name is Bea Copin. Thank you for watching Rappler.